everyone, welcome back to another CleanTechnica car review. Today we have the 2023 Chevrolet Bolt EUV, and now this is the Redline version of the EUV. You get some different body styles, some different colors, as well as on the outside, as well as on the inside, and it's a package that's available for the EUV. However, we're going to do a full in-depth review of some things we like, some things we dislike, and driving impressions of the 2023 Bolt EUV. So let's get started.
So for 2023, Chevy has actually done quite a lot when it comes to the Bolt platform. For 2023, there is a nice price reduction for both the Bolt EV and this EUV, for example. So the EUV starts at a price of about $26,200, and then this example that we have here today is the fully loaded Premier Redline. Now we do have three packages, and it totals about just a little over $36,000, just a little under $37,000. Now what's great about this is the fact that in 2023, they will actually qualify for the federal tax credit once again. So this is one of the most affordable options you can get for over 200 miles of range. Now, speaking of range, because this Bolt EUV is slightly larger than the Bolt EV, the Bolt EV is rated for 258 miles EPA, and then this is rated for 247 because it is a little bit longer. Now, it does compete with other vehicles in its segment, such as the Bolt EV, its smaller sibling. You can also compete it with the Hyundai Kona Electric, the Kia Niro EV, the Nissan Leaf, and then the Mini Cooper Electric. But honestly, for the price point and the features that this Bolt has, this is going to be a really great deal.
So now let's start off with the exterior of the 2023 Bolt EUV Redline. Now for 2022, when Chevrolet introduced the EUV model, they did a redesign of the Bolt EV as well as a new design language for the EUV. And you get these really cool split headlights with LED accent lights up here, and this is where your LED blinker is. So it's really nice. You get these LED projector style lights. Now, one downside of these lights is that we've noticed that they are angled down a little bit further than we actually think that they should be. It could be a safety concern. Through our research, we found out that other owners have experienced that as well, but I do believe that these LED projectors can be angled up. So just bear in mind, that is one of our dislikes, but overall, we really like how the front end of the EUV looks. Especially up front, you get this closed-off grille that is body color. This beautiful metallic paint color is called silver flare metallic. It almost has like a gold hue, but also blue and silver. So it's beautiful, I love it. But if you go with the LT trim, you're going to get a gray closed-off grille, which also contrasts pretty well with the vehicle. Now let's move on to the side of the car, because I want to show you guys what some accents you get when you get the Redline package. Now these are 17-inch painted wheels. You get this nice black accent, but then you also get some good red contrast as well as part of this Redline package. That looks really nice. Really like these wheels, and they ride really comfortably. Moving on to the side mirrors, you're going to get more red accent with nice contrast with the gloss black with metallic black as well, which works really, really well. Moving on to the side of the vehicle, you're going to get some removal of chrome for more black accents, which works really well with the vehicle. And now, this is one dislike that I personally have with the EUV, is that you get this floating roof design, which works really well for exterior design language. However, because you get this really big haunch right here, it does prevent some view when you're looking over your shoulder when you're driving the vehicle, so it does create some blind spots, but from the outside, it works really well. Now let's move on to the back of the EUV. Now looking at the back of the Chevy Bolt EUV, Chevy did a great job in terms of the design language. It's very familiar but also futuristic at the same time, which we really like. When you go with the Redline package, you do get these black bow ties, which look really nice. And then you get some more red and black accents for the Bolt EUV, which I really like this contrast. Black and red is some of my favorite color combinations, so really like this package. Now, from the back, as I mentioned, the design language is really good. However, when you're looking at this, you would think these lights are the brake lights, but they're not. The brake lights are actually down here, lower in the bumper, and they're LED, which is a much needed improvement over the older generation of the Bolt. However, one of our concerns is that these are really low in the bumper. So if you have a taller vehicle behind you, say for example, like maybe a semi-truck, they would really only see the third brake light. Since these are so low, that's a big concern for us. We kind of wish that Chevy would eventually make these the functional brake lights, and hopefully they do, because for us, that is a big concern. But overall, the back of the EUV is beautiful, and overall, it just is a really nice, concise design style.
Now that we've gone over the exterior of the 2023 Chevy Bolt EUV, let's go ahead and hop inside and show what improvements Chevy has made. Now, in order to get into the Bolt EUV, all Bolts do have keyless entry, and they do have a little button here to lock and unlock, which is really helpful. Whenever you open up the door here, what's really cool is whenever Chevy redesigned the Bolt in 2022 and brought along the EUV, they actually brought along a lot of improved materials here for the interior. Now, hopping into the front seat here, it's actually a good step in height for me as a very short driver. That's really nice. But what's really cool about the EUV is the fact that it finally comes with a powered seat, which you could not find before on any Bolt beforehand. Now, for 2022, Chevy did improve the seat comfort, because before, the Bolts were kind of on plastic lawn chairs, so to speak, with a little bit of cloth. The seats really weren't that comfortable in the previous Bolts, but these new ones for 2022 and 2023 are much more comfortable. Now, here in the Redline Edition, we do have the black leather with the red contrast stitching that you can also see on the door panel, and it looks really great on the interior. Now, Chevy did have an updated steering wheel as well, which is heated here in this particular model, and it has a nice look to it. You'll also see here up top, we do have a little bar, and this is for Super Cruise, because our vehicle does have that option here. Now, this is a great feeling here, and there also is a totally new center console that Chevy went with for 2022 as well. There is a whole new infotainment with a new software operating system from GM, and it works really great. It's very responsive. You have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a first for the Bolt platform, and you also have wireless charging as well, which is one of our favorite things about this vehicle. Now, some of the things that we may not like as much, one of the things that we notice is some of the interior illumination is still kind of that yellow incandescent looking light. We would like to see LED lighting in the future. You can easily have those bulbs changed out if you wanted to, but it's kind of something to note that this interior illumination does look a little dim at nighttime. Speaking of illumination, the Bolt Premier, the EUV in particular, does have ambient lighting that kind of wraps around the dash, which looks really nice as well. But we found something kind of interesting. Now, you have the illumination switch here on the left-hand side for the driver, and you can turn this knob right here to kind of dim all the screens if you want to on the interior as well. Well, we also found that this also does dim the ambient lighting, which is a little strange because a lot of other cars have a separate volume or a separate knob just for the interior ambient lighting. So we hope that Chevy could include that interior lighting or the ambient lighting here in the touchscreen. That way you can kind of adjust it as it is. But it is a nice white light for at nighttime, so it looks really nice. Now, another great feature here about the Bolt EUV, the Premier in particular, is you do have the Bose premium sound system. There is a lot of bass that we have found in the system, but it sounds really great. Now, another great feature, the last great feature here on the interior, is we do have a full panel roof here on the sun and sound package. It does open, it does vent, and this is actually our first feature for the Bolt platform, and it's actually really great that Chevy has brought that up here because a lot of vehicles within its class may only have a sunroof or no panel roof option at all. So it's really great that Chevy is including a lot of these premium features at such a great price for the interior. Now, let's see how both myself and Brandon fit in the front seat and in the back seat. Okay, so for the front seat for myself, I am 5'4", so I am kind of a little bit of a short driver. Now, I like that these are a fully powered seat, so I can easily adjust these. It does have lumbar, which really helps as well. The steering wheel here is a tilt and telescoping. It is manual, but I get a good range of motion, and because I am short, I have plenty of headroom here.
So sitting in the front seat of the EUV as a taller driver, as mentioned previously, I'm about 6'1", and I do have a little bit of a lack of headroom due to the sunroof, but that's mainly because I did my hair today. So if you don't have as poofy of a hair as I do, you should be okay. But overall, the seating position is very nice. You can really adjust the steering wheel to find a good position, and visibility out the front is really good as well for taller drivers. So I think for taller passengers, be a little bit mindful the sunroof does cut into your headroom a little bit, but overall I think you should be just fine. So now moving to the back seat of the EUV, it's a little bit of a different story for taller passengers. From the outside, it looks like there would be a lot of headroom. However, there's not. There's plenty of leg and knee room. However, there's not much space for headroom, which is really disappointing. Kind of was hoping Chevrolet would have done something a little bit differently. But overall, you know, if you're shorter than me, you should be fine. But if you slouch a little bit, you should be okay as well. But as we know, that's not going to really work for longer trips.
Now, what is it like if you are a shorter passenger like myself? Getting into the vehicle, I actually did hit my head right here because I didn't realize how big the C-pillar really is on the Bolt EUV. So when you climb in, no matter your height, just be cognizant of the C-pillar. It is really thick. But once I am inside, I still have a decent amount of headroom. I have about maybe 2 or 3 inches until I hit the roof here. But what's really nice is because I am a short passenger, I have a ton of legroom, so I can kind of stretch out a little bit. And this is in Brandon's driving position here as a taller driver. I still have plenty of length here. What's really nice is once you're back here, you do have heated seats on the Premier trim for the rear seat, which is super nice for the winter time. You do have a USB Type A and USB Type C ports back here as well, so you can charge your devices. But overall, I think if you are on kind of the medium to shorter side of a passenger height, you should be more comfortable than those of a taller passenger for longer road trips. But let's go ahead and check out this cargo space to see what that is like too.
So with the EUV being more of a crossover, you might be wondering exactly how much cargo space you get. Well, start off, this is kind of a con, but at this price point, it's to be expected. It does not have a power lift gate. It is still manual. But overall, without the seats folded, you still get a decent amount of cargo space. But be mindful, since Chevy did stretch the platform a little bit to create the EUV, to make the back seat a little bit larger, it did cut into some of the cargo space, so just be mindful. But what's really nice about the EUV is that you get this nice platform that also dips further down, so you can put more storage and more items down here, which is really nice. And then you get folding seats that also fold totally flat as well, so you can put a ton of wholesale products that you might be purchasing. Yesterday we had a lot of bags of donations that we were bringing to donate, and everything fit in here with the seats folded up. So overall, the back seat is very practical, or the trunk is very practical, but just be mindful, it's not going to be the largest for some of the vehicles you might find at this price point. So now if you're wondering if the Bolt EUV has a front trunk, well, I have some bad news for you. It does not, but a lot of the vehicles in this class don't offer front storage, so just bear that in mind. But while we're up front with the Bolt EUV, let's talk some power figures. It offers 200 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque sent directly to the front wheels. All-wheel drive is not an option, which it's actually not an option for a lot of electric vehicles at this price point, so that's okay. But with it being front-wheel drive, you do get some performance aspects in terms of when you punch the accelerator, the front wheels do tend to squeal a little bit, which can be a lot of fun. One other thing to keep in mind too is that the Bolt EUV is actually 100 pounds heavier than its hatchback sibling, the Bolt EV, which does make it a little bit slower in terms of 0 to 60 time, but that's okay. It's still plenty of power to get up to speed. But let's talk about some charging, because this is actually some of the downsides of the Bolt EUV. So now this is one of the major cons of the Bolt EUV, is that when General Motors and Chevrolet introduced the 2022 model year of the Bolt EV and Bolt EUV, a lot of people were excited to hear some improvements in terms of charging. However, we did not receive that. But one thing to note is that AC and standard charging has been improved to 11 kilowatts, but in terms of fast charging, the Bolt EUV still maxes out at a green 4 or 50 kilowatts. In terms of other competitors, they can charge a little bit faster, and that is one downside of the Bolt EUV, is that we were just really hoping Chevrolet would have improved that. But one good thing is that fast charging is at least standard on the EUV.
When it comes to tech and safety features, it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to the Bolt based on which trim you actually go for. Now, here in the Premier trim, we do have some optional packages that gives us things such as Super Cruise. Now, you'll see the little indicator bar here, and we'll show what this looks like in our driving impressions and show how you can enable Super Cruise. But here is the monitoring device for your face. That way, the system knows that you're actually paying attention while you're driving, which is actually a really cool feature that Chevy has included for the EUV only, which is actually really nice. Now, when it comes to tech, another thing that we really like is the 360 camera here on the Premier trim. What's really nice is you can see whenever you're in any type of parking situation, you can easily adjust the camera as you need to here in the menu to see where you need to go, or that way you don't hit anything in particular. But at least what's really nice is Chevy does include quite a lot of tech as standard on the Premier trim. The only thing that we've noticed is if you go for the LT trim, you do have to add certain packages to get some features. So just be nice if Chevy would actually just include some of those smaller features like rear cross traffic alert and the lane change with blind spot monitoring, the collision assist system on the LT you do have to pay for, but here on the Premier trim at least it's included, so it is kind of nice. But what's really cool is there's finally adaptive cruise control here in the Bolt platform, which you couldn't find before. So it's nice that they're advancing more technology as the Bolt gets older. Now here we are in the Chevy Bolt EUV. We're going to do some driving impressions for city and highway driving. So for first acceleration, it's actually quite a lot of fun. Even though you only have 266 pound-feet of torque, the Bolt is still pretty peppy. It's still in about, the 7-second range 0 to 60, but at least when it comes to city acceleration, it's pretty good.
Yes. And that's one of our favorite things about the Bolt platform is that going from 0 to 35 or even 40 miles per hour, you will beat pretty much the majority of vehicles off the line. And as mentioned, it is a little slower going to 60, but even just around town, it's a blast to drive.
Now, speaking of the Bolt EUV, one thing that we actually really enjoy about this vehicle is the suspension. Now, it is completely different compared to the Bolt hatchback, the EV hatchback, in terms of this is more tuned for comfortability when it comes to the vehicle. And we found that over any sort of undulations or bumps in the road, it is very comfortable, but when you hit that really big one, it tends to bounce quite a lot.
Yes.
But you can kind of tell, especially in the rear end, because it is a little bit longer of a vehicle. It's about 6 inches longer overall compared to the hatchback version of the Bolt. You can really tell over those big bumps, you're like, whoa, it really shakes a lot.
Yes, it's a rocking motion that we've noticed, especially when you hit it straight on. The car tends to keep rocking as you're going. So if you're prone to motion sickness like I am, you have to be mindful of that.
But otherwise, it's extremely comfortable here on our Cleveland roads. We do have quite a lot of potholes and bumps all over the place. And we found that this is actually a really comfortable EV. More comfortable than the Bolt hatchback, which is a little bit firmer and a little bit stiffer when it comes to the suspension feel. But one thing I want to talk about is I do have it in sport mode only because I think the steering feel is a little numb on center, but you can still tell where the wheels are going. If you just have it in its normal or comfort mode, you can tell that it kind of sways a little bit, but here in sport mode, it does stiffen it up for the steering feel at least. But otherwise, how are you feeling as a passenger?
It's comfortable. I have my ventilated seats on, which is a huge plus, and just overall being in the Bolt EUV is really enjoyable. One thing that we do want to mention is that the front windshield is laminated, so it is more quiet in here than previous Bolts, which is really nice. That was actually one thing that we picked on immediately. A lot of the road noise you don't really hear around town, which is nice. But yeah, being a passenger, it's very pleasant. I like it.
So now that we've done some city driving and what you can expect out of the Bolt EUV, we're going to swap seats and Brandon's going to show you what it's like on the highway and what it's like to drive with Super Cruise.
So we are now merging on the highway. We're in sport mode and we just hit 50 in probably, I would say, maybe about 3 or 4 seconds. Could have probably hit 60, but slow drivers in front of us, but that's okay. So once we get up to speed, we're going to demonstrate Super Cruise, which is one of the best options that the EUV offers, but we want to call it Super Cruise Lite because it is missing some of the features that the more premium General Motors vehicles offer. So what you need to do is once we get on the highway, you got to get in your lane, and now Super Cruise will not engage unless you're centered in the lane. So what you need to do is you'll turn on your cruise control. You'll wait for the little steering wheel image to pop up on the digital gauge cluster. You'll set cruise control, and once you're centered, all you have to do is hit the Super Cruise button, and the steering wheel will light up green, letting you know that Super Cruise is engaged. You can keep your hands off the steering wheel, which is really nice, and the vehicle will stay in the lanes for you. And now one thing that we do want to highlight is that with all of these systems these vehicles offer, you always want to maintain visibility in terms of making sure you're paying attention and keeping your hands on the steering wheel just in case. Now, earlier I mentioned Super Cruise Lite, and what I mean by that is that the EUV does not offer any auto lane change like you can find on the more premium General Motors vehicles like the Hummer EV, the Silverado, some of the General Motors or GMC vehicles. This does not offer that. So if you are looking to get into another lane, all you have to do is really put on your blinker and manually go to the other lane. But overall, Super Cruise works really well. Even at nighttime, we haven't had many issues. One thing that we do want to highlight is that Super Cruise tends to turn itself off randomly. General Motors mapped over 400,000 miles of highway that Super Cruise has been approved on, but sometimes it just turns itself off, which is kind of concerning.
Kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's really nice is we haven't experienced any sort of phantom braking or anything like that. We've just had 1 or 2 occurrences where it has turned itself off. Then we just turn it back on and it's perfectly fine. But it's gonna be really nice, especially if you like to take long distance road trips. Super Cruise can really help you on those mapped highways in your area.
Overall, it's a nice option that General Motors even offers that at this price point. So overall, we're pretty impressed with how Super Cruise handles.
Now it is only available on the EUV, and it is a $2,200 option that you can select on the Premier trim only. You can't get it on the LT, unfortunately. And I think for overall, for $2,200, it's definitely worth it if you do a lot of highway driving in your Bolt EUV. Overall, the Chevy Bolt EUV is in a very affordable package when you consider the range that it comes with, the technology that Chevy is including now in the Bolt EUV platform, and the fact that you can get almost 250 miles on a single charge. Now, despite the DC fast charging rate not being as high as some of its competitors, it is still a great overall package, and factoring in the new tax credit that is going to be coming for this vehicle in 2023, we think this is going to be a great buy for the affordability scale when it comes to electrification. So if you liked this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the CleanTechnica YouTube channel and stay tuned for more car reviews.